Hello!
Hey, it's 2023. Do we seem different?
It's so weird because I updated and the title of this stream says 2023, but for some reason the chat bot thinks that it's still 2022. So I apologize for the confusion, and if you're following the chat, it says this is our final stream of 2022, but on the title of this stream it says Synth Friends 2023 Return with our new synth friend today. So welcome in. Hopefully that makes sense. I think you can all hear me because I see the signal on the screen that my mic is working.
Looks like it is.
So welcome to 2023. There's not a lot of I'm used to doing some like celebratory fanfare for a new year, especially with like our music and stuff, and I'm just like, we're ready for synth friends again. I don't have time for that. I'm gonna do that next week.
Well, we were gone for New Year's.
Yeah, so we're just getting settled back in, and we're getting back to streaming again after a little holiday break. And I don't know why I wanted to put that down. Just beaming from our spaceship again out to you. Oh, Patter Unit 1, welcome back. Thank you. Welcome in.
Hello.
This is the first stream of 2023 with a new synth friend. I'm so excited.
Beaming.
Oh, Grace is here. Oh, see, now it like, why is it like 45 minutes later? It's like, oh, welcome to 2023. Like, we had to coax it. We'd be like,
we had to talk about it.
We promise it's 2023.
We had to talk about it being 2023.
So, one thing that I learned over the holidays is that I'm too online. So like one thing I learned was that once you start doing Twitch all the time, like you can't talk to people who don't Twitch. So I think that's part of why we like Synth Friends, is because we're luring people over into Twitch because it's where we like to be, and like nobody knows what an emote is out there in the regular world. So we're happy to be back and to feel like at home with our stream fam.
At home.
So thank you, Grace, for the dancing emotes and for being here. Happy 2023, everyone. We've officially entered like the sci-fi future that all the stuff we watch was predicting. Like we're in that window now, so welcome to the future.
Lots of talk of AI.
Yeah, a lot of AI talk over the holidays. So funny. So today, obviously, we're streaming earlier than usual, so I cracked open a fresh Pamplemousse La Croix.
I got sparkling water too.
You did?
Yeah.
Which kind do you have?
I have the other one. The lime.
We have two kinds of sparkling water right now. How fancy
the lime
is that
off-brand
shit? Lime off-brand, Pamplemousse La Croix. That's where we're at today.
And it's only because it's not 5 o'clock where we live yet. So
we try to keep a boundary.
Otherwise this would be a
Pamplemousse.
Wino.
Yeah, boundaries are really important. And we like to set one around the time of 5 o'clock. Grace spent the New Year's with a group of programmers who just needed to debate AI. Oh, but I mean, if of anyone to be around, so here's the thing, like, if you're around a bunch of people who are debating it from the standpoint of something else that maybe isn't quite so straightforward scientific, if you know what I mean, mm-hmm. I'm sure that was an interesting conversation specifically, but I can think of more difficult points of view to have that debate from.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally get that. We need to get our dance on, that's for sure. Usually over New Year's or over the holiday season, we'll get our dance on a little bit somewhere.
We fit it in.
We have not fit that in yet this year, so I'm like, thanks for the reminder, Grace.
She wants to bump and grind.
Mm-hmm. I think that, like, especially after COVID, it was, like, very imperative that we had some fun and danced. And I don't have quite the same level of impetus for that now after, you know, getting it out of my system a little bit. Anyway, we're here for Synth Friends. Welcome to 2023 and our first stream of Synth Friends.
And
we are very excited to be doing this.
Super happy to be doing it with someone from the UK.
Yes, you were reading my mind. Yes, Grace, exactly. Synth Friends! Yes, we got that out of our system, the need to leave the house. So you were saying about the UK?
Even though, like, after this holiday, I want to disown that side of myself.
Okay, we don't need to go there. I do think that what we're trying to say is that we've gotten feedback that would be nice if every once in a while, at least, that we streamed earlier because of our friends in the UK. So
yeah,
it just happens to coincide that our synth friend today is zooming in from the UK.
Let's
and
accommodate.
So therefore we can shift the time and then it all lines up and I'm really excited. So we're going to bring them on and let me get all of my engines purring for that. So welcome in. Happy 2023. Happy New Year. Welcome to the first Synth Friends kickoff.
Happy New
We're going to jump back into our Zoom so that we can bring on our new synth friend, Paulee Alex Bow. Do I have that right? Is it Bow, like the bow you tie? I have to ask.
Honestly, we'd have to ask.
I feel like we definitely need to do like a recap from 2022 still. So that'll be coming soon, I think, because we have some stuff we want to like review and like put a bow on, if you will, and like move forward into 2023 with some news that we want to share. So just stay tuned for that because that'll be coming. But in the meantime, we're going to celebrate the new year with a new synth friend and have a conversation about who knows what. Can't wait.
Who knows?
So let's get tuned back in here. All right, Paulee, we're going to bring you on to the screen now, if that works for you. All right, it's prime time. Here we are. All right, so I have to fix your window on the screen again. For some reason, Zoom reformats our OBS screens every time it restarts. It's like, what? Every time I get it just right, it like does something really strange. But
there's the fun stuff.
Gives me the opportunity to really highlight what you have going on in the background. So first of all, hello, welcome in. We have some friends in the chat, and I wanted to ask in the chat if you all can tell me, how do we share a link for just the chat stream? Is there a way to get a link that gives you just the chat stream? And if so, can someone help me with that? So we're going to do a little business here on that. And then also welcoming in our friend Mr. X from Germany, who just subscribed for 4 months in a row. Wow. So that's happening on the screen right now, Paulee. So we're having a little celebratory moment.
So good to see you.
So
Mr.
welcome
X.
in as we're like, you know, just welcoming everyone in all at the same time.
So good to see you.
But we have some friends here already in the chat hanging out. They've given me this chat link, so now I'm going to grab this and drop it for you.
And you're coming through with the resource. Wow.
Thank you, Mr. X. All right, so let me go back to the Zoom. So this is very cash, right? We're doing it live, we're doing it prime time, and we're just going to
We've said that so many times that now it feels serious. So
now I have to change. I have to fix the screen again because I sent you a chat message, so now the freaking screen changed again. Oh, I love technology. Welcome to the future, everyone. Happy New Year. You know, it's like, okay, cool. It feels like I've got the same viruses in my system I had before. Okay. Get back on track. Okay, so you got it?
Yeah, got it.
Hooray! Okay. That's the pop-out chat. Thank you so much. Welcome in, everyone. Welcome in, Paulee. Welcome to our wild and wonderful Synth Friend stream that can go in any direction that we choose, and anyone can leave at any time. Those are the rules. Let me just check this chat. It's going wild. Welcome in, enjoy being. Happy New Year. This is our first stream of 2023, Paulee, so welcome into the frenzy of that a little bit, too.
Wow.
Right? So everyone's very excited. It's like the first day back to school or something, so you're our honored guest for that moment.
No, definitely.
So thanks for celebrating with us.
That's okay.
And I think Augustus was telling me a little bit about how you wanted to share some things about what you have in common or what?
I just was curious about how Paulee became an electronic musician.
Oh, that's a great question.
That is a really good question, isn't it? So when it was childhood, I think for a lot of us, childhood has a massive impact on us getting into electronic music. So I was born in 1982, long time ago now. And
oh no.
At the time, synthesizers were huge, just absolutely everywhere. You know, we were still kind of in the analog age and just starting to come into digital with the DX7 in 1983.
Yes.
And then sampling, and I kind of like experienced pretty much all of it as it happened, which was great. Not only through the music I like, but the music my parents liked. So the one funny story I tell is there were some tracks with vocoders on, right? Everywhere you'd get like or whatever, right? Yeah. I didn't know what a vocoder was, and I was like 3 or 4 years old, you know. I assumed it was like a session musician robot who would go around all of the studios and sing his parts, and then they cut him a check, and then he'd be off, you know. Maybe like, you know, maybe he'd go to like a hot tub with some robo friends, you know, or whatever, afterwards to unwind after a busy day in the studio. So
they went to Juilliard, you know, like had to be a robot singer.
That's it.
Because you know, like,
I mean, it's
you
who
know,
really.
you know a good one when you hear it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a way to speak into that
Definitely.
robot creating device that, you know, when you hear a good one.
Some people have it.
It's kind of like baskets going to clown school, you know, like.
That's such a deep cut.
These specialty like vocational colleges.
Like just for theremin,
just for
vocoder,
robots. That's
just
actually a good idea. I feel like I could probably start that now.
Robot college?
Like basically like learn how to like do vocals like a robot.
There's a really good one, which was the first time I heard it, which was this is a very deep cut, slightly obscure artist. They're called the Ra Band. They're UK based, and it was basically one guy who had like loads of synths and a Simmons drum kit and just played everything, and got his wife to sing on it. And they had one hit single called Clouds Across the Moon, but the rest of their stuff is like proper like kitschy electronic funk / yeah, it's really cool. So there's this track called Rock Me Down to Rio, and it has the perfect vocoder kind of rock me down to Rio. It's brilliant, and it's all like major 7 chords and stuff, and it's like, you know, I imagine the robot there in the sunshine, you know, just soaking it in. So that's how I got into electronic music. I wanted to replicate those sounds. Even though I was disappointed to find out that session musician robots didn't exist. I enjoyed being able to make those sounds myself. So there was one other main component of it though, in that I had keyboard lessons from about the age of 14. Because I kind of I've got autism, so I've got a natural ability. I was picking out different sections of songs from a very early age and just hearing the layers from about 3 or 4. Like I remember like first hearing the bass line in YMCA, you know, the song YMCA, with the descending bass line, and just zoning in on that. So my parents got me some lessons, and the teacher, he was really cool. His name was Sean. And he didn't just teach us the piano playing books. He spent a good chunk of the lesson teaching us how to like sequence something using, he had lots of keyboards with like pattern sequences on. So you get like a 2-bar kind of section, and you'd like overdub parts. So then I was like just hooked after that point, you know, even though the sounds were like terrible general MIDI rompler
Yeah.
by today's standards, I was just like hooked. So I'd start then in my lessons replicating the pop hits of the day, which by the late 90s in the UK was like stuff like The Cause, you know, the Irish band The Cause.
Oh yes, I
I'd
do.
be like MIDI sequencing some of their songs to kind of learn arrangement and chords and things like that, and
Oh cool.
ripping apart MIDI files, and then so it just continued. I just learned more and more and more, and just, you know, made music my kind of life passion.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that because it does remind me of the idea of you're just like following the sound. You're just like a little sound detective.
Yeah,
Like, what's that sound? How do
definitely.
you make that? Oh, let me get that. Oh, now I'm
Yeah,
playing with it myself. You know, it's that whole journey.
yeah. I love that kind of journey.
Yeah,
And I guess no,
go
you
ahead.
go.
No, go ahead.
I guess the only sad thing is that once you've learned and kind of managed to replicate so many sounds, the kind of the excitement happens, the real excitement happens less and less in kind of tomboy exploration. Because you're kind of used to synthesizing certain things and stuff like that, so you kind of look for weirder and weirder synths, or like Eurorack or stuff. It's like I'm finished with, like, you know, pre-patched synths. I need to go into Eurorack and audio rate modulate everything and stuff, you know. And
Yep.
you kind of get, but then, you know, then you kind of forget yourself really, and then you come back to just like a simple detuned saw sound, and end up like vibing out on it for a while and thinking, yeah, there's still life in these sounds, you know.
Yeah. Speaking of synths, I think the how I became aware of you was through Facebook post about the Nord G1.
Yeah, I've got it right there.
And I have mine right
Oh
in front of
yeah.
me as well. And it's one of my main virtual analog synths.
Yes.
And I was just like, you know, I think we had like a back and forth on a post there, and I was just like, well, anybody who, you know, uses that synth primarily, you know, has got to be somebody that, you know, I connect with. So,
Yeah, there's got to be something there.
So from there, I discovered, you know, your magical synth adventure stuff.
Yeah.
And thought that was super cool. And
thanks. That's just kind of started Magical Synth Adventure. I decided to start it just at the point of having a child, which is a terrible idea.
It kind of makes sense.
But we've been trickling some videos out, you know, every few weeks, or like maybe one a month at least. And people are kind of enjoying it, because some of the stuff I've got is really hard to use.
Ooh, can't relate to that.
Like late 80s rack units and things that are kind of impenetrable.
Yeah.
But for some reason it makes me more excited. I feel like I'm a miner digging for gold.
Yes.
You know, like let me just pick one here that I've got, for instance. There's one called in my rack called the Kawaii. I've got a lot of Kawaii stuff. YXD5, and it's supposed to be a drum synth, but
right,
got a load of random additive waves and a ring modulator in it, and 4 oscillators. So, but it's all through a tiny screen.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like, well, we've got all these crazy things to play with, but behind a tiny screen. So I just have to sometimes take things out of my rack and plonk it on the bed. It's the best thing in the world. Plonk it on the bed, headphones, MIDI controller, and just I think patch programming can be quite a mindful thing away from music creation. If you get me.
Yeah.
Deeply.
There isn't really a goal other than to make cool sounds, and that's just so meditative. Because
Yeah,
I work in mental health, so I'm always looking for things to, you know, to kind of be mindful and in the moment.
yes.
Ooh,
That
yeah.
programming does that.
Yeah, it really does.
The G1 is astonishing though in the things that, you know, it can like
Is yours
one,
expanded?
it's not expanded,
Mine,
but
mine neither. So we don't have to be jealous of each
There
other.
you go.
I don't. Yeah, can you imagine? End the stream now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we would have to end the stream now. Actually, I think we would both agree that that would
It would be like, all right,
that would need to happen.
I don't really use it multi-tumbly, so I'm kind of okay just like getting like on a complex patch about 6 voice poly or something.
Sure. Yeah.
One of my favorites things to do, and I was like, oh my goodness, you can do this, is taking a 16-step sequencer. And then instead of sending like an LFO to it to make, you know, step a sequence, you send an oscillator to it, and it runs at audio rates. And then the steps of the sequencer create basically a 16 sample wavetable.
Yeah. 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 Very SID Station-y or Commodore 64, like,
yeah. So and by moving the sequence steps, you get like a different waveform. So then you can start assigning a few steps to morph and get almost wavetable movement. It's wild the things you can do with it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that synth.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I mean, it's a very you could spend hours, days, months. Like, I mean, it's like just imagine, having a modular that you could just keep adding modules to.
That's it.
And like you can get into like especially if you're cool with just the one patch. I mean, you can really you can patch you can patch a serious patch with this thing. Like it's not deficient. We say that we don't have the expanded version of it, but it's still pretty powerful on its own. As a matter of fact, the way that they implemented the expansion makes it so that like if you're the only benefit to having it is if you were going to use it multi-timbrally.
Sure.
And then obviously it's like, oh well, I need like 2 or 3 of these complex patches.
Oh.
So that I can have different voices going at the same time, which is cool. Which is why we would have to end the patch if one of the other of us didn't have it.
Yeah.
Because we'd be jealous.
In the stream. Yeah.
And we say that Grace is like, no jealousy here. It's like, no, jokingly, of course. Like, I'm not serious. Like, I don't have like disdain or hate for people that have
just the rules
that have expanded G1s. It's just like
how the other half live.
right. It's just like I'm glad that we could at least commiserate about not being expanded.
Sure, that's fine. We do have a little flight case for it though.
Oh, that's nice.
Ooh, now I'm jealous.
Yeah, we don't have that, but
love
that's
a
cool.
little flight case for any synth.
Yeah.
It came from Germany.
Oh, nice.
I couldn't get a G1 for ages, so I went on something called eBay Kleinzanglen or something, which means classifieds in German.
Oh, okay.
And I said, well, I know these are local German classifieds. I'm sorry for invading your kind of classified section as a British person, but could you send me the G1 and I'll throw some money at you? And because it came in a flight case, he was like, yeah, that's fine.
Oh.
So that was it, and it got here fine, and and it's a beautiful little flight case, just the perfect size for the G1. So.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Nice. Amazing.
If I ever gig it, because you probably could, couldn't you? You could just do an entire live set on a G1.
I think so. Yeah, especially.
That's a challenge. Anybody?
I use a hardware sequencer. I have a Squarp Pyramid. I don't know if you've heard of those.
Lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like if you had like one of those in a G1, you could literally do a set, no problem. Drums and everything.
definitely.
So we're always talking about like how you can have the like minimal but still fun to take somewhere setups, you know, like
Yeah.
what could fit in a backpack or what could fit in a flight case, or how could you take it down to its simplest parts but still get really, you know, have fun with it.
Yeah.
And it's always fun to hear what people have in the works or are working on or have tried, you know.
Yeah. Do you play out at all?
I haven't for a while. The last that I used to play out with my band, basically, which we're on a hiatus at the moment. We've got quite a comical name called Elmo Sex Whistle, but the music is so dark. It's like a bit of a joke in itself. Slight comedy name, but like really, really dark, industrial kind of.
Nice.
A little bit funky as well, because I've got this bassist who, like, you know, plays funk bass but with drop B tuning, so it's pretty cool. But
Nice.
I was playing out with those guys, but I haven't since COVID.
Sure.
So I might do that again. But yeah, the other things I occasionally do are kind of well, I do a lot of kind of performing charity events for mental health charities, which is fun. And I'm hoping this year to do a bit of live performing kind of solo, but in a very specific way. I'm a bit of a Commodore Amiga fan. I like my old
Okay.
computer stuff. So I'm going to probably work that into a live set, because the interesting thing about it is you can have a MIDI interface with it. It comes out by the serial port, but it itself has 4 mono channels of 8-bit samples. So about 28 kilohertz. So it's nice and crunchy. So the whole, the computer itself, this specific computer, had a big sort of splash in early 90s UK jungle and drum and bass music, because it was the first time kids could buy something for, like, you know, well, I got my first Amiga secondhand for about £100, which is not much at all for something that can sample and string samples together, you know, and make your own sequence sampled music for the first time. So I'm going to probably do a bit of that this year, work that into a live set.
Ooh.
And then it brings in the computer geek crowd, you know, because they're like there.
Right. What
So
what application do you use?
Well, I don't know if you've heard of like things called trackers.
I have, but I think it'd be cool to if you give our viewers a little rundown.
Yeah, that's fine. So trackers are like, they are linear sequences, but instead of running left to right like your modern DAWs, they run from top to bottom. So you put your samples, or you could have MIDI commands as well, on a step, and it scrolls down the columns and it plays it as it's go. It's almost music box like, you know, if you've ever seen one of those music boxes where the spindles kind of twang off the little tines. So it's got that vibe to it. And what you can do, I use a program called Octamed, which was quite big back in the day.
Octamed. So Octamed's the name of the app.
That's the one. So I can have 4 channels of 8-bit, 28 kilohertz crunchy audio samples playing. And then I can route those 2 stereo channels, because there's two channels on each stereo out, into my modular just underneath.
Ooh, here we go.
And I can route those samples through like filters and wave shapers and things like that. And then what I can do after that is also spit out some MIDI to my drum machines. So I've got like a Yamaha RX11 that I love, because it's really sort of 80s kind of synth wave and stuff. and I'll spit that out, and then it's a very different workflow to use in like the modern DAW or DAW. I call it a DAW.
Yeah, I think we use both. We're like always throwing both around.
Yeah, that works.
But the interesting thing is I come up with different results than if I'd have just composed in. For me to choose the path of least resistance in composition is I've basically got this I've got this autistic musical brain. I'll write a lot of stuff, chords and maybe sections of songs in my brain before I even, record something. And sometimes I'll dance around to like music that's in my head and isn't actually playing. And that's funny when that happens because like my wife will be like, "What are you doing? There's no music playing." So funny. And I can go to my keyboard or go to Cubase and punch all that music in, no problem. It's fine. But when I've got something a bit older and clunkier, a slight more path of resistance is created. And you have to kind of think about limited channels and kind of limited, sounds, and you can't just keep piling parts on one after the other. And you kind of get this sort of limitations breeds creativity.
Right.
Kind of
so I've always been curious because I've never gone the tracker route myself. I've always been curious, like, what about it is conducive to like break beats, like jungle hardcore, even mid-tempo breaks. Like what makes it? I think those people think that it's easy, almost to program that style of stuff.
But it's more just like accessibility, what was available.
I sit in a kind of interesting space between two worlds because I'm like a fully classically trained, jazz trained musician. But I also, my heart is with this kind of stuff. Yeah. So the kind of, when people start throwing around words like easy, it's not easy. It's just a different skill set. So trackers are conducive to drum and bass music because I don't know if you've ever seen the modern samplers like the Octatrack or Electron stuff.
Yeah, I have an Octatrack.
Yeah, there's one over here off screen.
You can modulate the sample start point for each step. So if you've got like a break beat, you can play the kick. You crash kick of your arm in on your first step, and then maybe like some of the on the third and fourth step. Octamed had all of that in like 1991 or whatever.
So it's the start point.
Start point modulation, yeah.
Yeah. I have an Akai Z8 that has that feature.
Yeah.
They finally added it.
Well, that's great. Yeah, it's brilliant for that kind of breakbeat stuff because then you can kind of what you do is per step you can have a note, and then you can have a number of hexadecimal commands. So really, you're kind of crafting the music one note at a time, modulating the sample start point, the volume, portamento, arpeggio kind of but super fast, like Sid kind of arpeggios.
Right. So it's almost like it has like P-locks, from like the Electron stuff.
It has P-locks.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it does. In a time when most, when most sequencers were kind of piano roll affairs on other computers, when people think about 90s computer music, people think the Atari ST, which had built-in MIDI ports, which I kind of like rebel against a bit because I'm an Amiga fan person. So, but I thought what I'd do is, and I don't know if this would work, but I might, if possible, drop a link in the chat?
Absolutely.
Feel that way?
Yes. Feel free.
So I've got another YouTube channel for all my Amiga stuff called Vogue Reneg.
Nice.
It's like a scathing take on how things go out of fashion very quickly. You know, you're in Vogue, and then that Vogue is reneged. You're gone.
Yes.
You're yesterday's news. And as
Yes.
well as some music made using bits of Amiga stuff, I've got some just pure tracker files there. So you can kind of see what you can do with 4 channels. So I'm going to just pop that there. Hopefully that worked.
Wonderful. Yes, it worked. It came through on our end.
That's great.
Amazing.
And I'm just kind of clicking it too. And then people can like check out the other things on the
Perfect.
channel if they want. There's like I've done there's an art contest every year, which is fantastic. Like an Amiga art contest where you draw a picture using the old, you know, you've only got like 1632 colors to play with, pixel art. So it's a pixel art competition, but also music competition. So I enter stuff every year, and last year I won it, which was cool.
Whoa, that's awesome.
I did a cover of a Wicked game, Chris Isaac, Wicked game.
Nice.
A kind of slow, dirty synthwave kind of cover of Wicked game. So yeah, that was fun.
We gotta. Is there a link?
Is
to that
what this link would we find that on that YouTube link?
You would, but I can just pop. I can pop a couple more on.
Yeah.
There's the Wicked game one. It gives me an excuse to use the old computers.
Exactly.
Right.
I love that.
Every year having that competition. There we go. So there we go. I told you I'd go into old computers.
I'm so glad you did.
But yeah, limitations breed creativity, really.
Exactly. I was just trying to scroll the chat a little bit. I know that it was going off a lot about what you were saying.
Oh, that's good.
That's very good. People love your synths. Thank you, Grace,
sort of,
for your plans.
I had sort of a thought in the middle of what you were when you were describing Octamed, and you mentioned the Octatrack, and I was like, wait a second, Octamed, Octatrack has 4 outputs.
Yeah.
I think they were inspired by Octamed, I think is what I'm gathering.
I think maybe they were with the Octa thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and you know the idea that the P-lock system might have been transported from like the tracker universe, and translated to hardware, which I think they did brilliantly.
Because the first trackers came out as early as 1988.
Wow. Yeah.
Called it was just called Sound Tracker, and it's quite clunky to use now, but it has the P-lock in, and it has, you know, all sorts of cool and weird stuff with it. So yeah.
Right.
I think around the mid 80s is where computers got powerful enough for really creative people to start getting creative with them. Which is cool, you know, things like MIDI taking off.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, because we have talked about in our studies of the history of early electronic music, we were very intrigued to find that people who made some of our favorite analog hardware synths that you would think, you know, that person's not into computers. Yeah. They were also over here trying to push forward computer technology so they could use it for music, like Peter Zinoviev. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. It came to that point when the technology for it to be more accessible or to do the things that the vision had been there for decades.
Definitely. And then it just happened.
Yeah.
People were like, wow, we're just like, you know. And
it was like aliens came to Earth.
Yeah. I mean, let's not rule it out.
I know, right? Synths and aliens are tied somehow. We
progress so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
The 1950s to the 1980s.
Yeah,
That
That
yeah.
space age.
that should have taken 100 years, maybe.
So
To go
true.
from like valves to transistors to microchips in that short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wow. It's almost like, in Terminator 2 where they find the bit of the chip in the past or something kind of thing. Did someone leave a Z80 chip in 1960s and someone was like, I'm going to reverse engineer this.
That's so true. We were just watching Back to the Future on New Year's Eve.
I mean,
Oh, amazing. Back to the Future.
I love it.
Back to the Future fan.
yeah, the
Yeah.
second one is my favorite. My
Well,
personal
that's
fave.
the whole like betting from knowing the future, right?
Mhm.
That's the second one.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
Trump one.
Oh, right, sure.
Yeah. It's like I've felt progressively throughout the years more and more like we're living in the bad timeline from Back to the Future too.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. We're all like, wait, that's way too similar.
Yeah,
Something's off here. Did we make this happen because we made this movie?
Well, yeah, and part of me is like, well, okay, let's stop rewatching it. Like, just get off the subject,
Just
like.
stop. Yeah.
That's it.
But the first one was what we were watching.
Yeah, we
Which
watched the
was-
first one. I feel like that one's got an innocence.
Because that one's
to it.
about, oh, this technology, I'm bringing it back to you so you can make it again to send me. That was kind of what we were talking about more.
That's it.
The good parts of Back to the Future.
And the 50s, being the time that they went
Exactly.
back to.
Exactly. The 50s and the 80s. Yeah.
We're in the vacuum tube era.
Yes.
Definitely.
Tangent. We went off on this.
Well, because again, it's like it's all tied into that technology boom.
I'm
that we're
happy
like,
with
how did that happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's like who was the main kind of players who made that happen? And I've been watching some documentaries on it, and some of it looked a bit kind of backstabby. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. To get to where we are now, there were a lot of people who had to kind of be very cutthroat in the world of, electronics.
Well, Shockley, the guy that invented the transistor, right? Like, we were just listening about how he was a real piece of crap.
Really?
Oh, you're reminding me how I accidentally learned that information. I was like, I did not ask for this. Yeah. I'm trying to remember, but I think I buried it because I was like, I don't want to know that.
Yeah, no, that's really.
But it's
all
that
needs to be
era
said.
of like when the birth of electronic music came from like the birth of these technological aspects that we keep bringing up. Transistors and chips and tubes and things. It's all part of it. But they were also all doing like experimental psychology things and like all of that is tied in with it. It's so weird.
Definitely.
That's probably why we like it.
I mean, one of the Amiga's first inventors, actually, before he made it, he made something called a joy board. It was like a surfboard that you could, use as a joystick. And one of the games he made wasn't surfing. It was actually like a meditative kind of game, which sounds really trippy and kind of like transcendental kind of psychedelic experience. And you'd have to just like listen to the music and stay still and go. So weird. So yeah, there's an example of
That's super cool. Like, I bet you that a working version of that is probably a collector's item.
Yeah, definitely.
Ooh.
A prototype.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember its name. But yeah, it'll come to me.
Yeah, there's a lot of technology from that era too that we like to explore because it didn't keep evolving. It just sort of died on the vine. But still did something cool.
Sorry, it kind of like hit me when you said that we've seen such a drastic change, and I'm realizing that like you know, some of these old school electronics geniuses types that, you know, are well-known synth inventors, you know,
Yeah.
your Buklas, your Oberheims, your you know, the late Dave Smith, you know, like these folks, they've literally been messing around with electronics for its entirety in a way, you know, like, because if you think about it being like, you know, really brought into the mainstream with the IC chip,
Yeah, exactly.
you know, like
Yes,
they've seen it, they've seen all of it, you know, and I never really thought about it from that perspective, you know, imagine if that was like literally, okay, I got into this game and now the technology's here and we're, everybody's just inventing shit, you know, like crazy basically with this stuff, and how exciting must have that, you know,
no,
been for them.
definitely. I was just reading up to get my facts straight. So
Oh,
there's
awesome.
there's a guy I know called RJ Michael. He is a really cool dude. He's like been in the video game industry for like years and years and years developing stuff.
Ooh, cool.
And his quote is that they made this joy board with this Zen kind of mindfulness game as a total distraction when they were developing this computer. So they wanted the world to think that they were just like a peripheral manufacturer, you know, making weird stuff, but in fact they were working on like a groundbreaking computer. So oh yeah,
Wow.
that's really cool, isn't it?
That's
It's
deep.
a
I
total
love that.
switch and bait kind of thing, bait and switch kind of thing.
Yeah, it was a decoy.
It's a total decoy, but
That's
someone
cool.
actually, even though it's mythical, someone's created an Atari 2600 cartridge of the game. So you can
Whoa.
actually play it
Of
as
this
of this guru
meditative.
meditation game. Yeah.
Oh, and if you used the joystick that was intended for tennis, I feel like
Yeah.
that would probably work better than
Oh.
It probably would. Yeah, it'd be cool, but yeah.
We
or
have.
one of those and like a regular joystick, and you're just like,
Oh. Amazing.
That is so funny to think about them making that. It makes me think about *Halt and Catch Fire*, but I do just want to shout out
yeah.
some friends that came through the chat that are joining us a little late here. Welcome in Obama Speedman and Deadbox. Thanks for being here. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome.
Hey.
Yeah, *Halt and Catch Fire*. I can't stop thinking about it. Have you seen the show? Is that a show you can watch? I think you can watch shows anywhere in the world now, right? Everyone can watch everything. I don't know how it works.
I mean, I think similar for us. Maybe some stuff takes more effort, but
a little VPN.
Maybe a little VPN. Actually. Yeah.
Pretend you're in Sweden or something.
I love that. It cracks me up.
I do think that an appreciator of vintage computing, such as yourself, would appreciate this show.
Also, great music.
Yeah, sure, definitely.
Because it's of that era.
Is it more about kind of IBM computers or something like that?
I think it's a fictional story, but
it's an amalgamation of things. But I do think that they had a starting point of someone they were kind of riffing off of at the beginning.
Right.
It sort of is the this era, the early personal computer era. And they were kind of developing computers, developing software, developing video games, and there's all these different factions of people involved in the storyline that are doing all these different things.
Yeah, it does a good job of depicting,
but it's really cool
how exciting it must have felt for the people involved in those early, stages of computers even being a thing.
I hadn't thought about this before, but it kind of reminds me of if they did like a Mad Men style telling of this era.
It kind of felt like that.
It's very slick. It's very cool.
Yeah.
Everything's intentional. Really cool. The music is great. It's fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I laugh. I cry. All the things.
Well, I'm really kind of glad that this kind of thing is more in the kind of mainstream now. People are. It's not just the geeks and nerds anymore into this kind of retro computer stuff. Everyone likes it a little bit, and it's good timing because one of the things I'm doing at the moment is scoring a documentary called Arcade Dreams. And it's going to be, I think, a 3 or 4 part documentary on the history of arcade gaming. all the way from like the Victorian age, where you had those fortune teller machines where there'd be like a little mannequin and a glass ball, and it'd print out a little ticket. You'd put in your money and it'd print out a little ticket, and you'd have your fortune read, and it'd say something like, you have violent tendencies, or something weird like that. That was one of the cards that they got when they were shooting footage.
Wow.
Violent destructive tendencies. It was so funny they got that card.
Ooh,
It was
dark.
Like, no, we don't.
You're a murderer.
Those dark times. That
The
sounds right. I remember we went to like a vintage arcade
And then
museum.
you do go and murder. Like that's like a good horror film.
That is a good
plot.
horror film. That's a giallo right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember that place we went? I think it was in Santa Cruz. It was like a vintage arcade games museum, and they had those fortune teller things, and they were working.
Oh yeah, like the thing from the movie Big.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
What was that, Zartan? Or yeah, I think it was Zartan.
Not to be confused with Zardoz.
I haven't seen Big in ages.
Yeah, me not. I'm surprised I was able to
That's fun to watch.
pull that out of the thin air.
So it starts there, but it goes pretty much up to the modern day.
Wow, that sounds amazing. When's that coming out?
It's probably going to be coming out in the summer.
Ooh, exciting, everyone. Arcade Dreams. Stay tuned.
Probably like Netflix or something. I think.
Oh, nice.
Distribution deals are, still to be made.
Fantastic.
I've had to write music in 100 years worth of genres, so it's been a bit challenging, but it's been fun, So I've got the big theatre organ kind of sounds and clarinets of the Victorian age, and then kind of moving on to more kind of modern stuff as it goes on. Yeah, I'm wondering, I'm hoping to see if I can start to make a bit of a career in music in terms of composition, which is incredibly difficult thing to break into, and at times soul destroying.
Yes,
but
very good points.
I'm kind of just gonna see where it leads. If this one's good and received well, it could lead to more work.
Sure.
And then I might be able to kind of have a part-time 9 to 5, and not make amazing money, but subsidize creative time. Do you know what I mean? So it's like goals that are kind of realistic and not looking for miracles. Like, I want to be like a star with millions of dollars or stuff like that,
Yeah. Absolutely. That sounds amazing. We hope the same for this for you.
Yeah, it sounds really cool, and I definitely want to watch it.
I know.
And I think I can't give too much away, but I think a couple of musicians who I very much admire are very into arcades and have actually partially funded the project.
Oh.
So I'm like, especially with this one guy who I really fan hard over. I'm like, well, he's going to have to sit through 4 hours of my music now. And he'll have had to pay for the privilege. So it was kind of cool.
That's cool. Yeah, that's very cool.
I love that.
But I'll see what happens and see where it goes. It's taken a long time,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
To get to this point. Not just in terms of in music, just in terms of kind of mental health.
Ooh.
And confidence and things like that,
Yes.
Some people, I think, have a big dose of confidence earlier in life and can put themselves forward and say, hi, me, and I think that is tricky if you're not that kind of person, if you don't have much confidence, and maybe you've had like life situations which have kind of robbed you of confidence in some way. So yeah, it has taken a long time for me to kind of be that kind of forward and kind of go, yeah, hi over here, hello, making noise, making lots of noise. Tricky. But it's something that maybe I can kind of teach my kid to try and build resilience and get that confidence a bit earlier in life than I got it, potentially.
That's
Um,
amazing.
Yeah, hopefully. I went a bit deep there.
I loved it. I think you're so right on, and I think that's something that a lot of us can relate to. Is like just, you know, what is confidence versus like pretending that you have confidence versus arrogance, and like how do you navigate that while trying to be an authentic creative person?
Definitely.
So yeah, that's right. That's right in the niche of what we can relate to, for sure.
Absolutely.
As people who want to make strange sounds and are excited by certain things that maybe only certain people care about.
I think it's interesting that everyone that we've had on the Synth Friends, at least, has sort of a different plan for it. So that I find very interesting. It does come up. It's not like we're all like literally shooting after the same opportunity all the time. You know, there's plenty of room.
Yeah, there is. And I'll say it without sounding like morbid, but our kind of generation is kind of coming to prominence a bit more now. Because I think we're kind of finding our feet because, you know, sadly, other people are like passing on.
Right.
So these opportunities kind of maybe come up more. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Absolutely.
I'm really trying to not put it in a...
I know, I love it.
No,
what I'm tiptoeing around here. It's like there is room because that kind of room has been made for us now. I don't know.
I think yes.
Whereas maybe it hadn't before, maybe 10 years ago it hadn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With people living very long lives, you know, we have great healthcare now, don't we, and stuff like that. And
that's so true.
People they'll get opportunities and they'll cling on to them. You know, for instance, I'll probably, if I get an opportunity, try and cling to it for dear life for the rest of my natural life. Do you know what I mean? So it's a kind of, I don't blame anyone for doing that. It's just maybe room is opening up now for
it's an interesting point about like what room there is and what room you can make, and I don't know, it's all just interesting about timing and
well, content, you know, has morphed and changed, and
everything does seem like it's
just as much as electronics has. Honestly, that's the big thing that I feel like I've seen is digital content metamorphosize into what it is today.
Sure.
Like that was my big observation period, like because I got
how we consume things.
Well, no,
or the type of content.
Well, just how like digital content, how the way that we consume digital content has evolved and changed.
Yes.
I started college, and I'm a little bit older than you actually, and I started college like right when MP3s were first being discussed. You know, as like. These are a problem.
There would be like articles in the magazine about what an MP3
a huge problem. Like because the you know nothing had happened yet. It was just literally like these things exist. Because you couldn't consume them, and it could be bad.
Yeah, there was no iPod yet,
and then it was bad.
Just the idea of a file was like paragraphs and paragraphs.
And then overnight, it was really bad. Like it literally like just the bottom fell out of the music industry, and then all of a sudden it was like, well, now like, you know, get with the times and like figure out, you know, this digital audio stuff.
Yes.
And we've been on that path ever since, honestly.
Talk about journeys.
Yeah. Like it's just now the streaming era is the, you know, epitome, if you will, of
the peak.
The peak. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, because it does feel like we're like, are we falling down the other side of this peak? Or are we flying off onto another planet? Are we staying where we're at?
Well,
Where are we going?
Well,
I heard that CDs are coming back.
What is? CDs, yes!
Yeah.
Oh, which is wild, isn't it? That
It's funny, yeah.
probably specifically Kate Bush CDs at the moment.
Specifically, yes.
Specifically,
They turned the lights back on at the CD factory for her.
Yeah, that's it. Get the best of Kate Bush out on the shelf.
Yeah. Well, what happened was all the tapes, like got worn out.
Yeah, we're out of tape. We can't make any more vinyl, so we're like, okay, CDs, anyone? And people are like, yeah, I remember those. Those were good. Why did we stop doing
that's
those?
another old thing that
Why did we stop
remember
CDs?
from my childhood.
Why did we stop those?
I love CDs.
I know.
You still got like a physical thing
Mm-hmm.
with album artwork and a little booklet. And
Oh, the booklet. Yes.
The booklet. And with hilarious 90s photos of the band. And then usually black and white and the facing off to some direction.
Yes.
No one's looking at the camera, it's just like
look cool.
Look cool. Don't smile. And then I really like CDs actually. I've got a few. But
the early CD layouts, the artwork, it's sort of like a history of like, how that went from something that was probably an analog task to a digital task. And I think that's what you're kind of mentioning is just that, I remember when it all of a sudden became like very exclusively digital, but it was like early, like, what would be considered really
do you mean
bad.
When you would get a CD of like your favorite band, but there would be like, you could put it into your computer and there would be like extended features.
Well, that
stuff.
like that was definitely a thing.
Video or something.
There would be a music video. It would give you a virus. Something would happen. But
I just mean the artwork itself was like usually like there was usually like a really bad like like vector graphic logo for the band or whatever, and it would just be something that's like, so obvious, like now it would be just like atrocious, like no one would ever choose that as their
history of CD graphic design. I'd love to see a history of CD
artwork.
It's coming back in style, it will.
And I know only because like I was definitely, because then came CDR, which was an entire, generation in itself and actually paved the way for me with like sharing music.
I was gonna say the mix CD.
Every musician walked around with a blank CD with a Sharpie scribbled thing on it with 8 or 9 tracks that were probably not all mastered to the same volume, but it was like
never.
So come on, Nero, burn.
Yeah, and we'd be like, why aren't more people thrilled
to that
by
party
this?
and throw your CD in the CD player.
Yes.
It would
Yes.
It would skip. It would like sometimes not play at all.
Data corrupt.
Yeah, it'd give you like just an error. You're like, oh crap, I must have used the RW again, or something.
Yeah.
We didn't know what we were doing with CDRs.
Yeah.
And the software we had to use with them.
My first recording though, my first digital recording that I ever made was on a mini disc recorder.
Ooh,
that I borrowed. It was like my friend worked at the Best Buy music store, and so he was able to like borrow one from work, probably without them knowing. And I was able to.
He stole one.
But he brought it back, so I recorded my DJ demo on a stolen mini disc player basically, and then got it taken back, and then I had to like.
It's a true crime podcast now, all of a sudden.
And I had to take it to...
Not at the Best Buy.
The person I was dating at the time's house, mom, had a Mac. And I was able to record it through her built-in sound card digitally using like a Toslink cable from the mini disc recorder.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And then from there I was able to burn a CD, which I was able to finally then copy like normal. But that's like, these are the steps that you had to go through if you wanted to
97
make
to 2005 was the dark
a
ages.
demo back in 99.
Oof, but it was fun too. We
Yeah,
spent
I
a
mean-
lot of time running around town, buying different kinds of cables, going to someone's house who had this converter. This person's mom has that computer. You were running around town with your technology issues. That was life.
Yeah.
I would my friends would call me on a regular basis because they'd be like having questions about their sound cards and stuff.
Oh.
Like, you remember, like, you'd have to like give me up for hours at a time, you know, but now, like, I feel like, you know, everything's
now
just
we have Google.
a Google or a YouTube video away, and
thanks to all of us contributing our information to.
Yet I still work in audio industry tech support. Myself.
No, that's amazing. Yeah, I went from a Tascam 4-track Porter Studio, and I pretty much skipped mini disc. Oh yeah, they is that a little Porter Studio. And I've got like a few cassette players now, actually, randomly. But I went straight to computer recording from that, and it felt like a completely different world. So I started recording with Cool Edit Pro. Do you remember Cool Edit Pro?
I do. I still I love it. I have it on my Windows 10.
Yeah, I still have it.
Yeah.
It's a shame that the 32-bit DirectX plugins don't work anymore, but the built-in ones do, so you can do like a gliding time stretch or something like that, you know.
Yep.
So there was no metronome either, was there? It was just in the multi-track window. You just
I don't think so. I wouldn't be considered a power user of Cool Edit, but like, I definitely don't think there
drag your audio in and see if it's in time, basically. But it was amazing compared to just like a 4-track tape deck.
Oh wow, yes, huge jump, huge leap.
Yeah. And then started my my quest of learning how to mix and master.
Ooh, yes.
Took you know, it took years and years and years to learn about harmony and chords and melody. It took years and years and years to learn about synthesis and creating timbres and stuff like that. And it took just as long to learn about mixing and mastering. It's just an equally big art form, really.
Yeah, I'm still learning myself, and I've been to school for it a couple times, and I'm still like, I take a course, you know, right now currently. I feel like it's the kind of thing where you're always learning, you know, like there's literally endless information and
definitely
a million ways to do everything.
Oh, there is like so many ways to do anything, but I've got my like little idiosyncratic way of doing it now. I mix everything on my nice speakers on Cubase. I use a legal version of Cubase because I was like, I'm making money for music. I've got to be legal.
Nice.
You know, and some of the cracked software people used to say things like try before buy or splash screens like that. So I was like, I'm gonna go legal and buy my DAW. So I use a pretty old version of Cubase on Windows XP as my main recording system because it's got my 32-bit plugins and everything just runs amazing. I don't connect it to the internet. And it's got quite a chunky like i7 processor, which an i7 running Windows XP just flies.
Yeah,
absolutely flies. So, but the weird thing is, I'm still living in a world where I had a crappy CPU. So my way of working is that I commit and bounce down tracks as soon as they're done. So, for instance, I'll like a VST instrument or something, or obviously you have to commit when you're recording hardware. But if I like a VST instrument or a contact kind of, you know, section or something, I'll just commit, and then I'll treat that as a sample to like mangle and, you know, do like a little warped pitch in or something, and do these little rises and things, mangling the sample, or drop it down kind of half an octave to see what that sounds like. Probably because I'm used to sample manipulation with the Amiga and Octamed and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And then it gets to the point where I'm happy with the mix. I will take it to a slightly old MacBook that I've got that is running an old copy of, again legal, of Isotope Ozone mastering.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I've got a preset which takes anything from my specific computer and makes it sound brilliant. So I've worked out a way for my own music to kind of, end up sounding really good. And I'll always take stems to master in, because something always comes up when you are like hitting it with a multi-band compression or the limiting. You'll hear flaws that you couldn't hear, especially with headphones, that you couldn't hear in the speakers. So I always take stems, and then if one of them's actually, that doesn't sound nice enough, I'll take the stems and redo that stem, take it back over to the MacBook and just master it, and it's fine. And I'll use like a reference track or something, I generally use like 90s rock, like the Smashing Pumpkins or something, as my reference tracks, even if I'm making electronic music, because I want to hear that treble and that bass and stuff.
Wow.
Nice and thing, and then that's it basically. I've got a mastered track, and I'm like, I just breathe a sigh of relief that another one's done, basically. Because it's so hard, that mastering process sometimes. And it's not really fair, because not many other art forms need that process. If a chef cooks a meal and puts it on a plate, he doesn't have to do something else at the end. Or if a painter paints a portrait, he might have to put it in a frame, but he doesn't have to do something else frustrating at the end.
Another whole other skill set.
Another whole other skill set at the end that people charge like £25 a track or £30 a track for in UK kind of
now make it suitable for commercial use.
Yeah.
And there's a whole process involved.
There's a whole process involved. For £100 apparently, which is, I don't know, about $150, you can get your track mastered at Abbey Road Studios, which was like, I'm tempted to just send one to see what they do.
Exactly.
And to see if it's actually any better than the master that I'm making, using my own EQs and racks and things like that.
If you do that, I would love to see like a YouTube breakdown.
I'll do it one day. Like when my channel's a bit bigger and I've got like a Patreon and stuff, I'll do a super thumbnail with a shocked face going saying, I sent my track to Abbey Road, right?
Yes.
And then I'll just break down what they did and what that'll be good. That'll be clickbaity, wouldn't it? That's good for a few
I want this to happen now. Everybody, let's
make it happen. And I'm sure Abbey Road would love that.
Yeah, definitely. Because I imagine that they do know what they're doing. Here I am.
I would imagine.
Here I am talking like I'm some sort of mastering genius. I'm not. I know the basics, but they'll probably be able to do some kind of weird 3D kind of stuff with Neve preamps and stuff like that. So
we'll see. I mean, like, is gear hype, or is Abbey Road hype, or are they
geniuses?
The geniuses that we all think of them as.
And I guess you don't really need you don't really get kind of like, unfortunately, their the recording chain and their rooms as well.
Right.
So, and the vocal booth kind of things.
Yeah.
So
just the little stuff.
Yeah, just the little stuff. So would the mastering kind of impart that flavor, or would mastering be able to save a bunch of cheap, trashy VSTs in AM?
I know. What are they trying to promise here? Do they have a magic slider that's just like the Abbey Road magic?
Yeah, I mean that exists as a plugin.
I know, right?
But yeah, I mean I don't know what they have, but
But now we're all curious.
yeah, I'm super curious. I mean, I would do it.
I would do
Yeah,
it.
yeah, definitely. And
Um,
it'd be an interesting experiment. But I've basically got good enough at mixing and mastering that no one noticeably has said anything bad for about 10 years. So
Ooh.
I'm like, well, that's good enough, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Like the last time someone said, "Oh, your track's a bit muddy," was about 2013. So I've been 10 years free of mixing criticism.
Happy 10-year anniversary.
that's awesome.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of sort of the autism and being slightly on the OCD kind of side of things, and perfectionism and stuff like that. That kind of means you can kind of dial in those little things.
Yes, hype, like being really tuned into one specific.
You've got to get in the zone, really.
Yeah.
It
exactly.
takes that, I would say.
There's a zone for sure.
And I think that track record means that you can teach it now.
Ooh.
Potentially, I don't know.
I'd be interested in those YouTube videos at least.
Yeah, definitely.
And sharing your skills.
Sometimes if I say autism, sometimes I really mean kind of right-brained kind of concentration kind of things, because we've all got that, whether we're on the spectrum or not. But most musicians do have an element of some kind of neurodiversity kind of thing, either autism or ADHD or something.
Yeah.
You know, because it's a spectrum. We've all got these mild traits in various things, and it's that kind of zone I'm talking about, that very right-brained analytical zone, which
Absolutely.
is away from the romance of writing chords and lyrics and stuff like that. It's a lot more technical, and
it requires its own zone for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
We've seen that too. We talk a lot about like seasons and cycles and like when to tap in to the certain aspects of the process, because it is a lot. There's so many steps to it. It's not just write a song, record a song, open your DAW. There's so much more
you have to sort of like trick yourself into being in the mood.
Sometimes you do, yeah.
Sure, no, I get that. There are some tasks where I'll always be in the mood for them. It's fun. And some tasks where I'll have to just, totally make myself do it. My favorite thing is kind of messing around. Sometimes it's just to mess around with effects on tracks.
Yes.
Yeah. And add those extra kind of little earworm kind of sounds that are put in for people on psychedelics or whatever. Or for people who really listen, shall I say,
Deep
in
listeners,
headphones.
yes.
Yeah. I loved your video about the Boss VF1, by the way.
That's cool, isn't it? That box.
Yeah. I want to get one. I don't have one, but I feel like I was actually looking into that before I discovered your video. But I had already discovered some of your other videos, so I like kind of knew of you, but like when I discovered that one in particular, it was because I was already looking into that unit.
Sure. So that's cool. I mean, it's got some of the cool Cosm Roland stuff on it.
Does it have like the lo-fi stuff from like say the Boss SP303, like that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it doesn't have the lo-fi comp, the lo-fi compressor one, which is a more subtle one, but it's got the bit crusher one, which is all out, which you can dial in a little bit. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it's a great unit, and I think that chip was used in a lot of Boss and Roland products around the 2000s, like the SP808 Groove Box,
right,
which runs on zip discs, and no one can make them work anymore.
Right.
And yeah, the Roland V-Synth as well. I've got a V-Synth that has similar effects. That's a cool sampler, that is. It stretches things and.
Oh yeah, is it the VP9000?
It's the one after, so it's the keyboard version called the V-Synth.
Oh, the V-Synth, and it has the VP engine in there, the very phrase engine. Yeah, I remember that one.
Really cool. But as I said, it's got similar effects in. But yeah, that video was again, it was like, I'm gonna do a video on some of the weird reverb units I have, because like I haven't really seen them detailed. All I'm ever going for on YouTube is stuff I haven't really seen.
Ooh, that reminds me. Let me grab these things.
Sorry.
There we go.
So my favorite is in that video is the little Rex 50, the Yamaha one, with the variable clock on it, because you can make it go down really low. And I just put the words crust up on the screen because it made this really crusty kind of haze of reverb over the beat.
That was a standout for sure. So did you have that one modded?
I did. I've got a friend called Circuit Ben. So his first name is actually Circuit, as in a circuit, and his surname is Ben, so like circuit bending. So that's how much he loves to circuit bend things. His legal name is Circuit Ben. I think there was alcohol involved in that decision. So I had that one modded with a variable clock. And yeah, I absolutely love that one. I'm trying to think if there's other ones as well. The one I'm going to show in the next video is a Korg Chaos Pad.
Oh, love this.
And that's been circuit bent as well by a different company. And that's got a variable clock on it, so you can, again, make the reverb go super long and super lo-fi.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Really love that. I really love stretching out reverbs by actually breaking the circuit. And making the CPU actually run at 10%. You know, it's wild that it works, but it does.
Yeah, that's interesting that you mentioned that, because pitching reverbs, I sort of stumbled across that by way of using convolution reverbs. Like, I realized that, like, you know, if that's a sample, and you know, when you pitch down a convolution, for example, it has that like pitch down tape sound to it, you know. And so I was like, ooh, what if I record the reverb track separate and I pitch both down? Then I get this like interesting pitch down reverb effect, you know, and you can kind of play with the detuning, you know, at that point.
Got my Paulee, hang on. My Paulee reverb pedal there. Hang on.
We'll get it.
Plug it in.
It's plugged in. Yeah, that happens to us all the time. We're like, it's there. We promise.
See it there.
Oh yeah, we can see it now.
So that's really what reverb convolutions built in, and I really like it because it's a little modular environment with a touchscreen.
Oh yeah.
So you can patch modules together and all sorts, and put like maybe like a chorus block after the convolution and feed it back into itself or something. But I had a great time making my own convolutions by doing things like taking ones that kind of came with plugins, you know, just the WAV files, the convolution files, and doing weird things to them, like bit crushing them or ring modulating them, just to see what happens when you put them back in to the convolution reverb. And some of the results were actually really cool. I definitely recommend taking a convolution reverb out of your pedal or out of your contact or wherever you're using it, plonking that in an audio editor, bit crushing it a bit, and then popping it back in, because you get quite a dense cluster of, it doesn't sound as, because you're only getting the white noise components anyway, It doesn't sound as rough as just bit crushing a reverb, putting a bit crushing insert on the reverb. But it does have this different texture, this really sort of in your face, cloudy, kind of hazy, slightly grainy texture. So
I feel like I would really like that. Yeah, that sounds really up my street.
I love it. I feel like we have some challenges now.
Yeah. The best one I've got, and I'll send it you as well if you want after, for you to use in your software or whatever you're doing, is there's a piece of software called am I allowed to swear on the channel?
Of course.
It's called Shit Talker. It's a Windows XP or earlier voice synthesizer.
Holy cow.
And you type in what you want and it says it. It's usually in a kind of Stephen Hawking type of voice, you know, hello. But
that was so good.
Someone
has been to robot vocoder school. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you've been holding out on us. Like, I see why you laugh so much at that now. Because you're like, I am.
Yeah. I've graduated from that college. But this one it takes out the pitched component of whatever voice you're synthesizing, and it's got a whisper mode, and it changes it to white noise instead. So the vowels and consonants end up being whispered in this creepy robotic voice, especially if you turn the speed down. So I just typed in help me and it came back right, so creepy. And I was like, that's my convolution, I'm going to put that in the pedal, and my goodness, it's incredible. Your synth pad or your guitar or whatever whispers help me in a really creepy way. So I'll send that to you later, all right, for you to
no, that is something
that's going in the Discord, everyone.
Yeah.
That's getting shared later.
Yeah,
definitely. So I'll send it you later. It's best if what was I gonna say? It's best if you put like a regular reverb after it to make it even longer.
Ooh,
you know?
Yes, I can imagine.
So the patch I've got has the convolution, then a modulated reverb for a bit of chorus in, and it's like, yeah, this is it. And I just called it Help Me, and yeah, it's really, really cool.
Now we're getting into like hauntology. It's like, who's saying help me now?
That's
channeling,
well,
we're channeling.
It's your guitar that's actually saying help me.
It's the guitar.
Help me.
I'm trapped in here.
I'm trapped. I love that.
Yeah. So that's some of the kind of fun sound designy things I get up to, really.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, messing around with I'm surprised that we got on this topic, but messing around with convolution reverb
I know, right?
files is actually, like, I feel like really fun and
definitely
something that not a lot of people have experimented with.
No, definitely.
Like it's there's not a million YouTube videos about that, at least.
No.
You know, so
I should probably make one with some of mine that I've got.
Yeah, I mean, I think
I'm ready for that now.
Yeah.
The other one I've got, which is cool, is I nicked a sample of Freesound of a train in a tunnel. You know, like
sweet.
it blares its horn playing like a really dissonant chord. And that makes quite a good convolution, because it makes your it's not good, but it makes your instrument sound like you're trapped in a tunnel with loads of trains going past. It's like really, really, really wild.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not good, but it is interesting. It's not good as a reverb because it's way too, way too dominating, but it is pretty cool.
This conversation reminds me of what I've read early, like tape experiments and tape experimenters, the kind of stuff that they would get into. You know, like your
trains were also involved.
your radiophonic workshop or your Pierre Schaeffer. You know, this sounds like one of those talks, but we're talking about digital,
right? Because we're saying
technology.
Music can be whatever we say it is, basically.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
That's the spirit of electronic music.
Definitely, it can. here's an interesting thing, because one thing that happens as you get older is that you mellow out a bit. So I think that I'm a lot more mellow about other people's taste in music and other people's what they think music is.
Sure.
These days, I used to have blaring arguments with other students on my at my university, especially people who did degrees in things like art philosophy and stuff like that, because we were coming at it from two completely different angles. Because music, usually, it does have a concept, but there is also an element of graft. So you're putting in quite a lot of work into doing things like that. A lot of other art forms, especially like modern visual art, didn't have that concept of graft. It was all pretty much the concept. Here's the concept. I've got a blue thing with a white line. That's my concept. Pay me $1 million. And it was interesting, and we used to have blazing rows about what was art and what, could be classed as art and what was just lazy kind of,
Yes.
But I've mellowed out so much with age, that I think it's more important that people are enjoying themselves, and are able to relax and are able to feel okay, like the well-being aspect of music.
Absolutely.
But I will have to say, for me to be engaged with music, my main love is harmony, which is not always the case with electronic musicians. A lot of electronic musicians love timbre as the first and foremost thing, and I love it too, making weird sounds and stuff like that. But I'm just a total harmony geek. It's what I love. It's what makes my soul sing when I hear like a couple of chords that kind of go together in an interesting way.
Get the
whoa, I'm like, and that gives me that kind of real endorphin release. And all the better if it's got an interesting timbre with it as well,
Exactly.
So massive harmony geek for me. But music is whatever we say it is.
I'm glad we all agree.
Brilliant. I might have to head off in about 5 minutes.
Wonderful. We appreciate that you were able to join us.
Absolutely.
My child is like screaming the house down.
Oh no!
okay.
I would never have known.
Never have known. Yeah, it's very quiet.
I've got like the door closed because this microphone picks up absolutely everything. I have to be careful. Like I only got like a condenser mic probably mid last year. I'd always been used to dynamic mics, and it was absolutely, I mean, you have to put far less work into massaging the vocal in terms of EQ or anything really, or cutting out. There's a better dynamic range, so there's less kind of hiss or noise gating that I've got to do. But at the same time, it picks up little mouth clicks and things in the room and stuff like that. So it's a different set of problems.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
There's so much to it that I think we're specifically really honing in on electronic music being this thing that has so many components to it to produce the result that there's plenty of little pockets to get lost in and enthusiastic and excited about.
Definitely. And I think that's possibly why it is so kind of, for me personally, more stimulating than guitar music, because I love guitar music and I play the guitar and I love playing the guitar and I love, coming up with interesting chords and things like that using the shape-based system, because you get happy accidents and things like that. But
That's
it
so
doesn't
true.
it doesn't quite grab me in the way electronic music does, because different pickups and things like that don't excite me in the way different types of synthesis excites me. Doesn't seem as great an abyss to fall down and
Yes.
or
Exactly. That is
yeah.
so it. That's so it. We've
Yeah.
never talked about that before. I love this conversation.
Really.
I'm
My
so glad.
my uncle Brian, maybe I could finish on this anecdote actually.
Love it.
My uncle Brian, and I guess it's about kind of aging and becoming wiser. My uncle Brian, who I met randomly for the first time properly a couple of months ago, because I didn't know I had an uncle Brian, and he's massively into synths, and he's got a project called Modified Toy Orchestra, where they use circuit bent Casios and Barbie dolls and stuff. Check out the Modified Toy Orchestra, the wild. But my uncle is an electronic music pioneer, and you can hear all about it on Magical Synth Adventure. We do a little interview.
Wonderful.
But he got given a Yamaha DX7 probably only a couple of years ago, and by that point he was a lot older than he was in the 80s when they'd first come out. And a lot of what was said at the time had put him off.
Yes.
The instrument, like, it's cold, it only does bells. It's terrible to program. Yeah. And that kind of reputation made it impenetrable to him, basically. But when he actually got one and sat down and looked at the algorithm flow, because if you look from the top to the bottom, it all flows in one direction, and you can kind of see what you're doing. And then you need to learn recipes, like how to make a saw wave out of sine waves, or how to make a square wave, and how to detune them, and how to get in between those things to do the things that FM synthesis does. And he got obsessed. Without that kind of prejudice, and without that kind of person telling him, you can't do this, this will be too hard for you, he was actually able to do it. So I think that's kind of a wonderful thing, and I never had that, so I quite like FM synthesis for certain sounds.
Yeah.
Usually quite dystopian sounds I use it for, like a sort of kind of pad or something. But isn't it amazing that if you're told you can't do something, you're probably not even going to try?
Yeah.
Wow. But how things can come back around. We talk about that a lot.
Definitely. Yeah, it all comes back around.
Yeah, exactly. So you're never really like missing out. It'll just come back around, and you'll be in a different space with it, and you'll get to experience it from a different
perspective. I mean, speaking of coming back around, like I have an old OS 9 machine, Mac
Lovely.
OS 9, and have FM7, the original
Yes.
Instruments DX7, and you can actually load the old DX7 patches into it, like natively, and it takes very little conversion. And I was enjoying that one the other day. At the time, it would have been very expensive for me, because I was like right when I got into music production, and I remember the native instrument stuff was like, maybe 150, 250 bucks a pop. And, now I was able to get it, because it's like abandonware.
Yeah.
And it sounds amazing. Like, I mean, it's such a good plugin. Like, I mean, and you literally can load any of the sounds that ever existed for the
I have a confession to make. Even though I'm pretty decent on FM synthesis, I do use it quite a bit. The Windows XP version, the 32-bit plugin, because it's got that easy edit mode. If you go to the easy screen and you tweak, I think there's a brightness slider, which makes it brighter, which is wonderful, which is something the original synths didn't have. An easy way of creating brightness or dullness. and a harmonic slider, so you can multiply. It does a specific thing, but if you take any patch and mess with those two sliders, you just end up with very quick results and very quick, unusual, tailored to your sound results. So if I need it in a pinch, I'll use it. You know, I'll load in a preset and then just tweak those two things if I'm doing something quickly. If I don't have like an hour or two to spend
Yeah.
getting lost in algorithms and equations.
Exactly.
Line across. But
I
yeah.
love it.
Well, I think that was a pretty good chat. We went into lots of.
I loved it.
Absolutely.
So inspired.
One thing I usually ask at the end is, you know, if you consider us synth friends now.
Definitely synth friends. Definitely. G1 friends.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, well,
it's pretty specific at this point.
That's how we started out, and now we're synth friends.
Should we find like maybe 2 more G1 owners and do a 4-track EP? Or something?
There you go.
I think that needs to happen.
That'd be quite fun.
I love that. You heard it here first.
That would be really fun.
I call it G1 friends.
Yes. It's a subreddit.
Yeah. that idea has been birthed.
That's great. And you can only use the G1 for every sound in the track.
But that's like so zero limitations. Then.
Yeah, right.
That's it. And you're allowed to do vocals as well, I guess.
Oh, okay, yes. Gotta set some parameters there. I like it. All right. Challenge accepted.
But vocals have to be processed through the G1.
Okay. Brilliant, yeah.
Oh, I love that idea.
Because there's so much you could do with vocals processing wise.
So true. Yeah.
I mean, that's the other thing. It's got an audio input. Like, and so much you can do with that. Like, that's cool. I feel like that was the coolest thing.
DC coupled, aren't they? The outputs are DC coupled, so they send CV, which is.
That's right. I've never even tried that. Yeah, because you could just literally use it as like LFOs and stuff and sequencers for your system.
I would say this has been very inspiring, and we're very lit up now to like go play with all our toys.
Oh, that's good. That's amazing.
So you've done that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Any last questions in the chat? We might have to throw in the Discord too and like send your way because I know you need to get going. But
yeah, that's fine.
Thank you for joining us. And
that's absolutely fine. It was fun.
Being so down for this.
So
and
glad
thanks everyone in the chat for supporting the whole experience, and give Paulee a follow on all the links that we dropped. Make sure you go check out the YouTube and everything.
Yeah.
And
also look up Arcade Dreams as well if you
Arcade Dreams.
The documentary, how that's coming along. Yeah, arcadedocumentary.com. I think the website is arcadedocumentary.com.
Is there a release date that's scheduled at this time?
No.
No, but it's probably going to be this summer.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, I found it.
I remember you saying that actually.
This is really cool. Everybody, remember we talked about this earlier. This is the film score that Paulee's working on, Arcade Dreams. I found the website. I'm going to paste it here. Check it out. We'll probably throw that in the Discord as well. So our Discord channel is where we kind of throw everything we talked about that we want to keep talking about from these conversations. So that's
is your work complete with the documentary?
No.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
No, it'll keep on going and going and going, I imagine.
Yeah.
Until crunch time, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got about like 40 or 50 mastered tracks. Some of them short. I don't want it to sound too impressive. Some of them are a minute long, but some of them are like longer. So far. So we've got a palette to work from in the video mixing kind of side of things. But yeah, I'll probably keep on going and have more ideas as it goes on and on and on, you know.
Exactly.
But yeah.
It's like a feedback loop.
And sample the previous tracks to make remixes of, you know, in different genres or something, you know.
Exactly.
There you go.
I was going to say, it would never end if you didn't
recycle.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, thank you so much. This was so fun. I'm so glad we got to connect this way. Jumped from the internet, you know, straight to onto this chat, and now we're synth friends. And what we usually say is, if you have someone you would recommend for us to speak with next, feel free to share that with us, when we chat later.
Yeah.
Now that we're synth friends.
Yes, no, that's fine. I can think of a few people, man. A few interesting people.
That's very fun. We appreciate that.
I've got your 2023 sorted. I'm joking.
Yes.
Not that many. Not that many people, but I know a fair few cool people.
That's dope. We're excited. See, now it's a web.
You'd be surprised. We'll let you fill the calendar.
Well, fantastic. Right.
All right. Well, we'll see you around on the internet, and we'll be making sure that everyone is following along with your journey as we stay connected.
Thank you so much.
All right. See you around.
See you around.
I always get sort of like, oh, I have to stop the Zoom and come back here and jump out. There's just so much. Music. There's so much. Mr. X, I love it. The Galaxy hype attempt. I love it. I don't know what's going on there, but I love it. Oh, wow, you guys. That was amazing. I had so much fun. Our return to the stream for 2023. I feel so up close, so intimate, so like up close and personal here on this shot that we have right now. But that was so inspiring for me. I felt like after being kind of out of it for the past couple weeks from the holidays, it was just like, yes, retro tech, let's go. The
conversation literally could have endlessly continued, I think.
Like endless feedback loops.
Because I was just realizing, like, man, there was so much that we could have talked about. Mm-hmm. There's so much that we did talk about. That could have
Those are just true things. But I love this idea of, like, just leaning into the G1 more, because I think we had a synth friend on who used it as a reference for a funny, outdated synth that no one would use. And I just love that. I love that both sides of that have happened now. We're leaning all in.
I mean, my G1, come to think of it though, anybody who has a G1 or, is incorporating that into their system, like, my setup is so ridiculous. It's the Nord G1 and a G3 Apple laptop.
If you all could
like
only
a
see.
Vintage.
We'll have to show it sometime.
Black, like, business style.
It looks like he works for the CIA in 1985.
IBM vibes, like ThinkPad, like G3.
He knows state secrets.
Running Mac OS 8.6 just to run the editor. And I realized that I could probably do it on, like, a modern machine running Windows XP.
I know, now we know, right?
I realized that I could do that. I've always known that I could do that, but, like, I'm a Mac guy, so I have an old Mac running my editor, and the thing is literally, like, I have on my list, like, as an ongoing reminder to, like, dig deeper into the G1.
See,
like, I'm sure you have stuff like that.
Absolutely, that was your answer. That was your answer right there, or your reminder that that's what you said you wanted to do.
Yeah, because there's just literally, I mean, you don't need another synth.
And yet.
This is my deserted island synth. I could abandon all other synths. Now,
that is written in blood now. You can only bring this to the deserted island.
Does it sound like the Buchla?
No, it's a completely different vibe.
It's a different vibe, and it's a different sound, and you get into completely different timbres. But, like, and would I want both? Of course.
Clearly, because you do. I feel like you've been unleashed to, like, talk about the G1.
To talk more. I know, I'm like, the G1 is the best synth of all.
He's been holding back so much that this
it's the only other synth I own besides the Buchla for a reason.
It's true.
It's the best synth ever.
That is so intense. Well, I just want to thank everyone for being here with us through this new year and hanging out with us in 2022 like you did, and making it our best year ever, and our first year on Twitch, and our best year on Twitch, because it was our first year, but still. We are entering year 2 on Twitch now, so thank you for being here with us.
It's been a ride. It's been a wave.
Thank you for being the inaugural hangs for this first Synth Friends of 2023. I'm excited for us. We have some things we're going to be rolling out this next couple weeks, and it's going to involve potentially another Twitch stream, so keep your ears and eyes peeled for that. if it happens, if we can pull it together. And then new music, of course, is going to happen. So I think this is going to be a fun year, and I'm excited to talk more about it. But this conversation I just wanted to have. I didn't want to like try to make too much New Year's things happen all at the same time. I'm trying to ease into this year. Obama's Weedman, I'm so glad you could join us. Mr. X, thank you as always. Grace, so happy to see you. This was really fun, everyone that was here with us. And I know you enjoyed it because I could tell we were all vibing so hard. The vibes were deep and hard. Yeah.
Deep and hard.
So I think we're gonna probably return next week full time. I don't think we're gonna do a movie night this week or anything because we didn't do a poll. We're just sort of easing back into the week.
As we should.
It was New Year's. Give me a break. So I think the plan is that we'll return on next Thursday for another Synth Friends. And by then we should know kind of what our new schedule for the new year is going to be, and we'll be able to announce some of that stuff for you. But I expect that next week we're going to have Synth Friends.
Ease back into it, yeah.
And then we're doing the Ambient Fam Raid Train on Friday. So next week we'll have some synth stuff for you. New sketch hype, exactly. Easel back into it. Oh, that was good. That was good, y'all. That was like a tag team effort right there with Mr. X and Grace. That was awesome. Yeah, exactly. We're going to easel back into it, and we're going to ease on in with Synth Friends like we've done. And I think we have someone already set up for next week, too. And then Friday will be Ambient Fam, and then hopefully we'll be ready to do some movies again. But we need to work on our movie collection. Yes, that's right. Grace, Mr. X, all of us are doing Ambient Raid Train on Ambient Fam on Friday. So that's going to be dope. I'm really excited for that.
Yeah.
It's going to be a much needed chill out time for Friday. So
yeah, we're going.
I think we're playing at 8 p.m. We're playing pretty late.
Deep drone. Deep
down inside. Deep. It's a stacked lineup. We don't know. Have it memorized. We're just going with the flow like we do. And we're going to show up, and it's going to happen. And yes, Toto Robin's going to be involved as well. I'm stoked. Shrimp's taking over Ambient Fam.
Yeah.
It's a lot. But we're happy to be part of it, and happy that we're all still here for another year. And excited for what's to come. And, got our eyes on Super Booth. I got to do a little more research on that with the timing of everything to make sure it's going to work. But we've got our eye on it. It's the next thing on my list. And I look forward to having more to share with y'all soon. So thanks for being here today, because it is kind of like our pop back in of like, hey, Happy New Year. We have a little synth friend hang, but then we're going to go back into our cave for a little while before we come back out full time again for streaming. So next week is really when it's going to kick into gear. So thanks for being here. We'll be checking back in with you on all the channels and all the sources. And, let me find somebody to read. That Arcade Dreams thing looks so awesome, by the way.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch that. It looks
I'm stoked
awesome
for that.
On all fronts.
Arcade Dreams.
I spent a lot of time in arcades as a teenager.
The fact that it starts so far back is really cool too.
Yeah.
That's really exciting. It's really exciting. All right, so yes, I saw Aren't You in Your Cave Now? I know. The cave is in my heart, if you know what I mean. The cave is in my heart. I see everyone is streaming right now, so it's just like kind of I'm gonna roll some dice here and pick somebody because there's too many friends streaming. Oh gosh. Okay, let me see. Let me go to my portal for that. But yeah, I'm excited to check in with everybody and talk more about like New Year's plans and all that. But I'm still just tired from the holidays, if you know what I mean. It's sort of just like I'm excited to jump back in, but I also want to keep napping, like hibernation style, Like New Year's, it's dark, just want to hibernate. But yeah, we're gonna raid into Killer Bee Relay Team because I want a little pick me up energy.
Heck yeah.
And I'm excited. The world needs post-holiday holidays. Exactly. This
post-holiday siestas.
Like literally after New Year's, I'm like, okay, now I can take 2 weeks off. Because partying through the holidays and all the things we do is not a vacation.
I'm exhausted.
Let's just put that for the record.
I'm really excited to drink some wine.
But yeah, we're gonna go chill out and get our heads in the game so that we can come back to full-time streaming. But we'll see you guys next Thursday for Synth Friends and Ambient PM on Friday, and we're gonna raid into Killer B. And thank you for being here, and happy holidays, and happy New Year, and happy 2023. And thank you for being you. We'll see you around. Woot! Hype! Yes. Here we go. Let's unmute.